You know, at my age, you figure you've got all your secrets sorted, filed away or burned. But there's one that still gives me the shivers. Not from fear, not anymore. From the sheer dizzying what-if of it all. It was the autumn of 1943. I was 19, knee-deep in love with a man in uniform, and I found a letter that wasn't meant for my eyes. A letter that whispered he might be a traitor. And honey, let me tell you, in those days, that wasn't just a heartbreak. That was a one-way ticket to a federal pen. Or worse, this ain't just a story about my first love. This is the story of the week. I had to choose between the boy I dreamed about and the country we were fighting for. To understand the jam I was in, you gotta picture the world. I was Mabel Henderson, living in a 3-story walk-up in Baltimore with my ma and kid brother. The war was this constant hum in everything. Ration books for sugar and nylons. Victory gardens in every patch of dirt. My pop was over there, somewhere in the Pacific, his letters arriving thin as whispers. And me? I'd traded my secretary school dreams for a job at the Glenn Martin aircraft plant. Rosie the Riveter? I was more like Mabel the Meticulous, checking wiring harnesses for bummers until my fingers were raw. It was exhausting, and it was the most alive I'd ever felt. And then there was Jack. Jack Morrison, the absolute cat's pajamas. We'd met at a USO dance the year before. He wasn't some flyboy pilot with slicked back hair. He was Army quiet, with a smile that didn't come easy, but when it did, it lit up his whole face. He was stationed at Fort Meade before shipping out for, well, he couldn't say. Somewhere in Europe was all we got. We wrote each other every single day. Those letters were my oxygen. In a world painted in shades of khaki and worry, Jack's words were in color. He'd describe the English countryside, the funny slang the locals used, the way the rain felt different there. He signed every one yours, till the wheels fall off. We had an understanding. After the war, it was all planned. A little house, a future. It was the one thing in my life that wasn't rationed. It was a Tuesday. I remember because meatloaf night was always Tuesday, and Ma was making it with more bread than meat. The mail came late. 2 letters from Pop, 1 from my brother, and the familiar, precious mail from Jack. My heart did its usual little flip. I took it up to my room, savoring it like a piece of chocolate. I slit the envelope carefully, like I always did. The mail form was there, his cramped, hurried handwriting filling the space. My dearest Mabel, another rainy day. The mud here has a personality, and it's a real pill. I smiled, drinking it in, but as I held the single sheet, something felt off. A little, too. A little too? Dick. I turned it over. Nothing. I held it up to my desk lamp, and there it was. Not on the VML form itself, but on the tissue-thin original letter they'd microfilmed and reprinted. A watermark, almost invisible. but not a company logo. It was a series of tiny, precise lines and dots pressed into the paper. It looked like a diagram, a schematic of something, and below it, in letters so small you'd miss them if you blinked, a string of numbers and letters, asterisk F22, grid 7B, confirm receipt, songbird. My blood went cold. I mean, ice cold. I'd been working on airplane wiring for a year. I knew a schematic when I saw one, even a tiny, ghostly one. And songbird, that wasn't me. That wasn't any pet name Jack had ever used. Yours till the wheels fall off was our saying. This was someone else's language. The floor felt like it tilted. Okay, Mabel, think this had to be a mistake. A weird printing error? Maybe the censors marked, but we all knew the censors just blacked out lines with ink. They didn't embed secret blueprints and confirm receipt. That was instruction. That was spy talk. I'd seen enough news. I'd heard the rumors about fifth columnists, Nazis hiding in plain sight. My hands were shaking. I looked at Jack's familiar words about the mud and the tea. Were they just cover? Was my sweet, quiet Jack, my fella who wanted to be a history teacher, was he a Nazi spy? The next 3 days were a special kind of hell. I was a zombie at the plant. I'd look at the bomber wings I was working on and think, could someone like Jack be trying to shoot these down? I'd reread his old letters, looking for clues. A casual mention of a French coastline. A question about factory shifts. Things I'd thought were just him being interested in my life suddenly looked sinister. I was going nuts. I couldn't tell a soul. Not Ma, who'd have a heart attack. Not my girlfriends, because loose lips sink ships. And what if I was wrong? What if I got Jack in trouble? But what if I was right? People were buying war bonds. Boys were dying on beaches. And I might be sitting on a secret that could hurt all of that. The weight of it was crushing me. By Saturday, I was a wreck. I hadn't slept. I'd hidden the letter under my mattress like it was a live grenade. I knew what I had to do. It was the hardest thing I'd ever decided. I had to go to the authorities, but not the local cops. This was bigger. I put on my best Sunday dress, my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted out. I took the streetcar downtown to the massive stone federal building. I walked up to the FBI sign on the directory, my knees pure jelly. The office was all polished floors and stern faces. A man in a suit, Agent Carlson, young but with eyes older than dirt, listened to me stammer out my story. I showed him the letter. He didn't react. Not a flicker. He just took it. Asked me 100 questions about Jack. About me? About the plan? He asked if I'd told anyone. His calmness was scarier than anger. You did the right thing, Miss Henderson, he said, but it didn't feel right. It felt like I'd just thrown the love of my life to the wolves. They let me go, but the feeling of being watched, that started the minute I left the building. A car seemed to follow my streetcar. A man in a fedora was reading a paper outside our apartment the next day. They were on him, and because of me, they were on me, too. It was 4 days later, the longest days of my life. I was coming home from my shift, covered in grease and dread, when a plain black sedan pulled up beside me. Agent Carlson was driving. He leaned over and opened the passenger door. "Get in, Miss Henderson. We need to talk, and you're going to want to hear this. He didn't take me to the federal building. He drove to a quiet park, and sitting on a bench, looking tired, rumpled, and so handsome it made my heart ache, was Jack. I stopped dead. I thought I was seeing a ghost. He was supposed to be in Europe." He stood up. He looked at Agent Carlson, then at me, his expression a storm of relief and pain. "Mabel," he said, and that one word held everything. Agent Carlson spoke, his voice flat. "Private Morrison is not a traitor. Miss Henderson, he's been working with the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services." My brain short-circuited. OSS. Like spies. Our spies. Jack took a step forward. "The letter, Mabel. It was a test. For you, I must have looked like a fish out of water. A test. A test?" Jack explained, his words tumbling out. DOS was recruiting. They needed people stateside for support work, people with sharp eyes, discretion, and access. My job at the plant made me interesting. But my relationship with Jack, that made me perfect for their plan. They'd concocted the whole thing. They'd planted the coded watermark on his real, loving letter. They'd fed him a songbird line. They wanted to see if I'd notice, and more importantly, what I'd do. "We needed to know your character, Miss Henderson," Agent Carlson said. "Under real pressure. Would you ignore it? Destroy it? Tell your friends? Or would you, out of a sense of duty, report it? You passed. With flying colors." I was stunned. Then the anger hit me. A white-hot wave. They'd used me. They'd made me doubt the man I loved. They'd put me through a week of pure torture. I turned on Jack, tears of rage in my eyes. "You knew? You let me think. You were a rat. You broke my heart, you jerk." Jack's face fell. "I didn't know they'd use our letter, Mabel. I swear on my life. They told me after. I've been going out of my mind. I begged them to let me see you." Agent Carlson cleared his throat. "The offer is this, Miss Henderson. The work is classified. It's dangerous. It would mean occasional tasks, observations, never breathing a word, not even to your mother. You'd be helping the war effort in a direct, vital way. But you walk away now. You never speak of this again, and you can go back to your life. The ball's in your court." I looked at Jack. The hurt in his eyes was real, He'd been a pawn too, just a bigger one. I thought of my pop out there in the Pacific. I thought of the boys at the USO dance who never came back. I thought of the schematics I touched every day, bound for the skies over Germany and Japan. This wasn't about Jack and me anymore. That was broken. Maybe forever. This was about who I was when the lights went out and the hard choice was staring me in the face. I'd already made one hard choice. I could make another. I turned to Agent Carlson. I wiped my cheeks, stood up a little straighter. What would I have to do? The next 18 months were a double life. To the world, I was still Mabel Henderson, aircraft plant worker, dutiful daughter. I still got email from Jack, now full of real, censored stories from France. But sometimes I'd take a different route home. I'd note a license plate. I'd have a casual conversation with a woman at the grocery store who wasn't just a shopper. I'd drop a sealed envelope in a dead drop, a loose brick in a wall by the river. I never knew the full picture. I was a single cog in a vast, silent machine. And Jack, we tried. We really did. But the trust, it had a crack in it. We'd survived the government plot, but we couldn't quite survive the shadow it cast. When he came home in 45, he was different. I was different. The war had changed us, but our little drama had changed us in a way we couldn't fix. We had one last, long talk on my fire escape, and we let each other go. It was sad, but it wasn't bitter. We'd loved each other. And then we'd been used by something bigger than love. The impact. It shaped my whole life. That OSS work taught me to watch, to listen, to trust my gut above all else. It gave me a steeliness I didn't know I had. I never went back to just being a secretary. I used that steel to become a union organizer at the plant, then a teacher later in life. I looked at my students and wondered which of them had that quiet strength, that ability to see the hidden watermark on the page of their own lives. Sound of a gentle breeze, birds chirping, music fades to a single, soft piano melody. So, that's my shaking event. The time my first love and my country collided, and I got caught in the middle. Do I regret it? Turning Jack in? No. I did what my conscience told me was right for America. Taking the OSS job? No. It taught me I was tougher than I looked. But do I wonder? Oh, you bet I do. I wonder what would have happened if I'd just thrown that letter in the fire. Would Jack and I have made it? Would we have had that little house? Maybe. But that's not the life I lived. The life I lived was one where I learned that sometimes loyalty isn't blind faith. It's looking at the person you adore and having the guts to ask the terrible question. It's understanding that love can be true and a situation can be a lie, both at the same time. They used to say, loose lips sink ships. Well, my lips were sealed, tighter than a drum, but my eyes... My eyes were wide open. That's the real lesson, kids. Don't be afraid to look closely at the things you hold dear. Even the most beautiful love letter might have a secret hidden in the paper, and what you do with that secret, that's what tells you who you really are, till the wheels fall off. Thanks for listening. For more of my stories, just hit that subscribe button. I'll be here waiting to share the next one with you.